Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, how has Indiana's housing market changed 10 years after the housing crisis? A big-name manufacturer sets up shop in Lebanon. Part 2 of our special series on Crane. Trendiana focuses on Hispanic Heritage Month. A gourmet marshmallow company switches gears. Noblesville is set to open a $24 million sports facility. And perspective on the top stories of the week from our panel of insiders. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. On September 15, 2008, Wall Street investment bank Lehman Brothers declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Many experts say that triggered the financial and housing crisis. So, how are things looking 10 years later? Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Indiana realty broker Greg Cooper joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick with perspective.
Let's go back to some not so fond memories. 10 years ago, 2008, how bad was it?
You know, we started by talking a few minutes ago how I remember vividly during that time, through 2008, good part of 2009 into 2010, there was 2 years, perhaps a year and a half, where almost every night when I went into a home to list for sale, someone who lost their job, was going to have to move, where somebody didn't cry. And that's a really intense night after night after night when so many families are feeling that pain. Yeah. It was bad.
Yeah, we're a manufacturing state, obviously. The unemployment situation was terrible. Elkhart, the highest unemployment rate in the entire country. Foreclosures. Indiana was in the top 10, I think, for a while. We were maybe number 1 in the country. That has improved, though.
Well, outside the top 10 at this point. We don't want to be with Illinois and California and the other states that are still having those problems because of their troublesome economies. So we've improved tremendously in that respect.
As you look at the numbers, in 2009, 1 of every 62 homes in Indiana was in some form of foreclosure. Today, it's 1 in over 4,700.
Shocking.
It's improved. Anything driving that improvement?
I believe that we resolved this problem, Gary, in part because so many of the foreclosures were in very modestly priced homes. If you had $100,000, $125,000, $75,000, in some cases $40,000 and $50,000 homes that had been foreclosed upon, unfortunately, those homes were bought by investors and flipped pretty quickly because of the affordability factor. So we recovered much more quickly, I think, than a lot of places in the country did.
Let's talk about equity. At the lowest point, 2013, 12% of Indiana homes had negative equity in their homes. Today, it's just over 2%, so really? That's better as well.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame, and I almost wonder if that 12% wasn't generous. I'm not sure exactly that. It might not have been a whole lot worse had we really been able to delve deeper into it.
Let's talk about new home construction, because that was just decimated. Went down like 60% from 2007 to 2008.
A number of big home builders in Indiana disappeared. The number 1 home builder in the state of Indiana disappeared during that time. So we went way down, and in the purest economic sense, while there was a lot of pain there, obviously, for lost jobs and whatnot, the reality is that the home building business has really reinvented itself in an interesting way in the last few years.
And as we were talking off camera, many communities have reinvented themselves, and you really feel that that's been a part of this whole recovery.
To me, the most shocking part of what's happened in the recovery in the last 10 years is how communities have begun to reinvent themselves, to reinvest, to redevelop themselves, catering to populations. No more do we just put up sprawling neighborhoods wherever. We're redeveloping central cores, walkability, new urbanism, all these terms that have become so important to both downsizers and millennials, big parts of the housing market. Those have become front and center for communities, and they're catering right at them.
Yeah, these communities are being very intentional, no doubt, about that strategy. All right, let's fast forward now to today, to the market. Last time we had you on, you said this was the craziest market you'd seen in 30 years. The inventory so tight. Have things loosened up?
I'm not going Mach 3 with my hair on fire anymore, so that's probably a good thing. Now, things have calmed down. There are still houses that get sold very quickly if they're in an affordable and amenity level that the market really demands. But there's a number of homes that are sitting a little bit longer. And I even said to somebody earlier today, if you have a $200,000 house pretty much anywhere in the state of Indiana and you're not sold in the first 30 days, probably not priced right for the marketplace.
Yeah, and you go back a few months, the number of offers on homes was crazy.
You know, on that $200,000 home, if it was a really nice product at the beginning of May, we might have got 4, 5, 6 offers on the house. Today, the first day we might still get 1, or the first week we might still get 1, which isn't bad, but it's obviously cooled considerably.
Where do you see things going, Greg, through the remainder of this year and then as we begin 2019?
A lot of demand exceeded in the first 7, 8 months of this year, so it's been a little slow for July, August into early September. I think we're going to have a little spurt between now and Thanksgiving, and then things will settle back in before we get into the true breadth of the holidays.
All right, Greg Cooper, as always, some great perspective on a tough time 10 years ago and perspective on the current market.
Glad to be looking back at it as well.
So exactly. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right.
Still to come, part 2 of our special series Behind the Gates at Naval Support Activity Crane, and Trendiana spotlights Hispanic Heritage Month. But first, Monasol, which makes water-soluble films for products like detergent pods, has opened its high-tech production facility in Lebanon. The company says the $72 million project will result in nearly 100 new jobs. Reporter Mary Rachel Redman has more.
Global manufacturer Monasol is expanding its operations to Lebanon. As you can see, construction has already started on its 150,000 square foot high-tech production facility that's expected to create nearly 90 jobs in Boone County.
It puts us near another metropolis. We're near Chicago. Now we'll be part of the greater Indianapolis area. It gets us reach as far as hiring individuals. We're very heavy in chemists, chemical engineers, management people in business. And with all the universities around here, I mentioned Butler earlier, we'll be able to draw from that because we're in this location.
It's a game changer for us. You know, Monasol, first off, they pay great wages for their employees, but also they're really focused on being part of the community, which is great for us. You know, it's a targeted sector for us, plastics manufacturing, so it's going to be another great corporate citizen here in Lebanon.
The new Lebanon site is Monasol's 4th manufacturing facility in Indiana that's not located in close proximity to its Maryville headquarters. A Challenge Company president and CEO Scott Benning says will serve as an opportunity for growth.
It's going to be a great stepping stone for us because everything we've done so far is really concentrated in Northwest Indiana. And having a disjointed, detached facility is going to cause our management team to figure out how to deal with locations that they're not 20 minutes away. It's a 2-hour ride. We're going to have to build more infrastructure and the management side as well. And it'll be a great learning experience for us as we continue to grow globally.
Throughout the state of Indiana, Japanese companies employ 65,000 Hoosiers. So it comes as no surprise that continuing to foster relations with Japan is key in Boone County's overall economic development strategy.
We have 6 Japanese companies that have established operations in the area. We have a variety of internationally based companies that have established in Boone County over the past number of years, but by far Japanese-based companies have been the highest.
Construction on Monasol's new manufacturing facility is expected to be completed by early 2020. In Lebanon, Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
Later in the podcast, Trendiana takes a look at the impact of the Hispanic community on Indiana. And a lifestyle change leads to a business change for a gourmet marshmallow company. But now, our month-long series Behind the Gates at Naval Support Activity Crane continues. This week, we look at Crane's estimated $2 billion annual economic boost to the southern Indiana region with Director of Engagement Kyle Werner and Crane Army Ammunition Activity Engineer Lauren Shipman.
Naval Support Activity Crane covers nearly 100 square miles of wooded southern Indiana terrain, making it 40% larger than Washington, D.C. It's 3,000 buildings, 500 miles of roads, and 90 miles of active rail support one of Indiana's most dynamic economic engines.
It's a rather large installation with a variety of tenants. We like to think of it as Team Crane. And at Team Crane, we have roughly 5,500 employees that come on base each day. That is a makeup of both the civilian employees, our contractors that are seated on Crane, and the active military. All told, we do a little over $2 billion annually in terms of economic impact, with a significant portion of that being spread across the state's economy here in Indiana. We like to say that we have an economic impact of $2 million a day to the state's economy.
Which is substantial. You mentioned the employee numbers. Interesting that the vast majority of those employees are non-military, right? They're just a small number of actual military personnel here.
Yeah, that's correct. When you look across the country, there's a variety of different defense labs like Crane, and often is the case, it's inverse, where you have a higher concentration of active duty military, where here it's much more civilian focused, where we take an opportunity to focus on delivery of the technology and weapon sensors that help our warfighters accomplish their mission.
One of Crane's biggest challenges is keeping a World War II era complex relevant in a rapidly changing technology-dependent economy. Tens of millions of dollars of investment in flexible manufacturing offer promise for the future.
The facilities being built in World War II is making those around 75 years old at this point, and so we have a strong initiative to modernize those facilities. And each of our modernization modernization efforts focuses on whole building renovations of those facilities. A few things we like to look at to reinvest in our people as well as our facilities is we're looking at safety and quality of work environment improvements in those modernizations to ensure that there is an inherent risk with working with ammunition, and so we want to ensure we're doing everything possible in those buildings to promote the safety of our employees and get them home safe to their families every day. Another thing we look at in our modernization is the flexibility of our manufacturing. We don't want to paint ourselves into a corner for what ammunition is today, but when we look at modernizing facilities, we're looking at what might come in the future and ensure that those facilities are designed that way. And that basically ensures the lethality and the readiness of our soldiers to bring them home safely as well.
Kyle, you talk about big numbers when it comes to employees here, but I think it's interesting to note that been in hiring mode here for the last number of years and have actually hired a number of people.
Yeah, that's true. So we're very much a demand-driven organization, and with our market verticals that we've developed in strategic missions, electronic warfare, and expeditionary warfare, we've seen real strong demand in each of those three areas. Over the last 5 years, was sharing that we've actually hired 1,450 NSWC Crane employees, and when you look at our top-line growth over that same 5-year period, it's just over 429 employees to be precise that we've brought on board. And these are very well-educated scientists, engineers, and highly skilled technicians. So a great next generation kind of workforce to be working here at Crane for many years to come.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, a gourmet marshmallow company changes its focus, and a look at a new Noblesville sports complex. But now, National Hispanic Heritage Month is underway. In the Indy Metro, estimates suggest Hispanic-owned businesses add more than $1 billion to the economy. In this month's Trendiana segment, Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith looks at the cuisine and impact of the Hispanic community on Indiana.
We've got some great eats here. It smells great as well. But I think a point needs to be made that the impact of the Hispanic community on the Indiana economy, certainly from a food standpoint, but in so many ways, such a diverse impact.
So many different business categories. That was one of the things that we wanted to highlight. But this is a taste of it, hopefully encouraging people to try a new cuisine and know that it's everything from Peruvian to Salvadorian, trying something new.
All right. Speaking of Peruvian, we begin your statewide tour right here in Indianapolis on the south side. Don Juan V's Sandwiches.
Yes. This was actually the #4 restaurant when we pulled the data for top businesses, places to eat in the state of Indiana. The Yelp reviews love the yuca fries. They've got the lomo saltado, which is marinated beef strips. Really fun 50s diner vibe. It's just a really cool experience hosting a lot of events there, too.
On the south side of Indianapolis,
yes, south side of Indy.
All right, let's go to northeast Indiana. El Salvador, Salvadorian cuisine in Fort Wayne.
Yes. This business is known for their pupusas. And if you've never had a pupusa before, it's a cornmeal-based tortilla stuffed with meats and cheeses, and then topped with a curtido, which is a marinated coleslaw type mixture. And they're really refreshing and fun, and that's what you got to get when you go there.
Another popular stop, and I think they have multiple locations, that's Mama Inés, a Mexican bakery in Lafayette.
Yes, located in Lafayette, and then they also have a location on Georgetown Road in Washington Street in Indianapolis. This is one of those places that you walk in the door and you are just amazed by the trays and varieties of Mexican desserts that they're making. Every few minutes you see a new row of pastries coming out of the kitchen, all made in-house, and they're also known for their tamales.
Okay, very good. And there's also some veggie-friendly Mexican offerings here in Indianapolis, East Side. Tlaoli.
That's right, Tlaoli in the Near East Side neighborhood. This is a perfect example of one of those businesses that has been a pioneer in the Near East Side, putting down roots. Tlaoli is known for offering no lard tamales, which is great for vegetarians. Their tamales in general are standout. A lot of grab-and-go options there, so you can run in, grab something, take it for the day, and they also do catering.
Oh, very good. All right, let's head back up to northern Indiana for some Venezuelan cuisine at the Mango Cafe. That's in South Bend.
Located right across from the stadium at Notre Dame. They are known for their arepas as well as their empanadas, which are stuffed with meats and cheeses and beans, really fun on the road. It's a really good place, too, if you want to get a sampler. It's known as the national dish. People love going in there so you can try the plantains, the meats, everything in one plate. It's really fun for sharing.
And our last stop is Columbus. It's a community with really a diverse mix of companies from around the world. But El Rincon de la Delicias.
Beautiful
right?
job, Gary. Yes, yes. So this is known as a dessert stop. So you can go there and get smoothies and juices. They're known for their tres leches cake, as well as their cubanos. So you can go in there, get a sandwich, grab something to go. Really fun, great, like you said, example of Columbus and their diversity.
Yeah, and again, when you look at the Hispanic community, the incredible business, the economic impact, this is just really a fraction of that impact around the state. And as you look at places like the International Marketplace here in Indianapolis in the old Lafayette Square area, there seems to be momentum behind.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and one of the beautiful things about it is not only can you go to that area and try a restaurant or bakery, but you're going to see groceries, businesses beyond the food culture, all within one zone. You can be standing in one place and see it everywhere.
Very good. Brittany Smith from Yelp, as always, a great wrap-up. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
Later in the podcast, a new $24 million sports complex is set to make its debut, and our insiders weigh in on the top stories of the week. But now, after 10 years in the gourmet marshmallow business, 240sweets.com in Columbus has ceased operations. Keto Lux co-owners Alexa and Samantha Lemley joined Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta to talk about the change.
Well, let's start with you, Chef Alexa. You both combined have lost more than 100 pounds, which is incredible, quite the transformation. Tell us, what is keto for people who aren't familiar with it?
Sure. The ketogenic diet is a high-fat, low-carbohydrate, moderate protein diet. So it's a metabolic change that your body has where it processes fat for energy instead of carbohydrates.
Okay, so tell us about Keto Lux, your new company, also based in Columbus. What are you selling now?
Oh, well, Keto Lux has all sorts of Chef Alexa's deliciousness. The items that are sold by Keto Lux, we have some out here today. We have Lux Bites, which are sugar-free chocolate deliciousness. We have Keto Lux candied bacon on a stick, also sugar-free. We have spice blends and herb seasoning, and oh, there's a pavlova, one of my favorite dishes Alexa makes. So Keto Lux is full of all sorts of good things, just no sugar.
Okay, so your marshmallows garnered a lot of attention, a lot of accolades. You were featured in O Magazine, Martha Stewart Weddings, Food and Wine Magazine. Do you feel like you can reproduce that kind of success?
Keto Lux is a little different. Our mission statement with 240 Sweet was to make people happy through gourmet food and drink, and we did that very well. Keto Lux's mission statement is to help people live their best lives. And so we're focused on healthy choices now and things for improvement rather than immediate gratification. But there's still a lot of that too with the food.
Because you say it's very good that most people eat it and don't even realize it's quote unquote keto.
That's correct. In fact, the candied bacon on stick just won an award for best appetizer at Girls Night Indianapolis against 22 other entries. I mean, and no one knew that it was sugar-free.
So, and as if opening a business doesn't keep you busy enough, you also have a cookbook project on the back burner.
We do, Chef Alexa.
Yes, so our Keto Lux cookbook should be out in October. We're super excited. All these delicious foods, all the recipes. It's going to be great.
And you're self-publishing that?
Yes.
And is there a good number of recipes in that?
There should be about 100 different recipes and then some other little base recipes so people can cook a lot of the good stuff for themselves.
And you still have a retail location in Columbus, and it is Keto Lux now.
Yes.
It is, and we still have Artisan Foodworks Catering. Now, Artisan Foodworks Catering will have a Keto Lux menu coming out next month where people can order party platters and different foods to supplement their catering, or if they're having people over that say that might eat keto, sugar-free or gluten-free, or they're going to a pitch-in, they can pick something up.
Okay, and you mentioned your website is up soon. In the future, people will be able to order meals on the website, so you guys have plenty to keep you busy. Thank you both for coming on, and good luck on this new venture.
Thank you.
Still to come, perspective on the week's top stories from our panel of insiders. But first, the city of Noblesville and Klipschkart athletic facilities will later this month mark the opening of a $24 million youth sports facility. The Noblesville Fieldhouse will include hardwood courts, indoor turf, and a physical therapy office. Developer Andy Card joined Bill Benner in the business of sports.
Exciting development. This you just broke ground, it seemed like yesterday, and now on October 1st you're ready to open. This is a not just a building, it's the result of a strategy focused on youth sports. Discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, Bill, my partner Mike Klipsch and I about 4 or 5 years ago started this vision of creating a multi-sport athletic complex. And so Finch Creek is now our second facility, and we are very proud to be able to offer a multitude of sports, especially for sports that may not have capacity in schools to be able to be played.
And the first venture is the Pacers Athletic Center at Grand Park in Westfield. You mentioned before we went on the air, the Crossroads of America is not just a slogan, it really plays into this business strategy.
Most definitely, Bill. One of the big advantages that we have by being in Indiana is that Indiana logistically literally is the center of the country. And so as we attract tournament for Nike, Under Armour, USA Basketball, we're also the NBA partner for the entire Midwest region, one facility or one company out of only 10 that's in existence. And a lot of that has to do with the location of Indianapolis and its suburbs, and due to the fact that our hotel rooms are more affordable, our airport's outstanding, and literally the infrastructure of the highways to get in and out of our facilities is superior to the rest of the country.
One of the interesting things about Finch Creek Fieldhouse is you're focusing, again, we think about basketball, but you're focusing on other sports.
Yeah, basketball and volleyball are obviously two primary sports, but with the large turf area, we're focusing on lacrosse, rugby, a little bit of soccer. Flag football is making a huge resurgence, but a lot of the sports that you just don't, there's not room for them to play, and then obviously a big emphasis on softball and baseball.
And you've just recently broken ground on yet another facility off the Indiana 3869 interchange in Pendleton, and again, a specific sports strategy focused with that.
Yeah, Tim McClintock and his folks up in Pendleton, we've worked really hard over the last year, and that'll be about 135,000 square foot facility with a primary focus on indoor tennis and gymnastics, as well as a healthcare component with community hospital that will involve all kind of wellness, recovery, etc.
And again, three facilities in close proximity to one another. As we wrap up, Andy, obviously you're not in this to lose money. You've thought about not oversaturating the market, right?
Well, my investors and my banks always ask me, why are you building them so close together? We have, in this region, we are fortunate to have tens of thousands of kids that really extend from the west side all the way over to the east side, especially on the northern suburbs. And there just isn't a saturation yet. The demand for these facilities is there's still a big demand.
All right. Well, Andy Card of Eclipse Card Athletic Facilities, thanks for being on the air, and we wish you nothing but success.
Thanks for having me.
Forward.
And finally, our latest group of insiders offers perspective on the state's top business stories. This week's panel includes Vox Global Managing Director Mike Marker, Center for Business and Economic Research Director Mike Hicks, and Kiwanis Youth Programs Executive Director Christina Hale.
Mike, we'll start out with you on somber, anniversary. 10 years, it doesn't seem like it's been 10 years, but a decade ago was the financial meltdown, the Lehman Brothers, the housing crisis, and all that took place back then. Lessons learned as you think back to how bad things got back then and fast forward to today?
Well, yeah, some really good news. We're in the second longest expansion in American history. This time next year, it'll be the longest if we can hold on to it for another year. Many of the factors that played into it have recovered. Housing is mostly recovered. Maybe in central Indiana, really good shape. Maybe outlying places still struggling.
So that's what you were saying off camera here, that recovery not even throughout the state.
Right. We've seen incomes rebound. Certainly labor markets are good. If you want a job, you can have a job today, but we're not seeing the housing market prices and construction are now pushing back up in central Indiana, maybe Porter, parts of Lake County, maybe Floyd County, but there are about 60 counties in the state where it's really not profitable yet to build a home. So we're at about half of new home construction where we were in pre-recession years. So we didn't have the big bust in housing because we didn't have a big boom, but we're not back everywhere yet.
Yeah. And I think it's something that we should be a little bit concerned about, because when you look at our talent attraction and talent retention, home ownership and the affordability of that is an absolute staple in that across the state and has been. So we need to watch that. And I do think when you look at income across sectors, we have a bit of a housing affordability crisis as well when you look at rents. You have more Hoosiers paying more than 50% of their monthly wages on rent and utilities, and that's not sustainable, and that trickles down to their ability to pay for ongoing education and healthcare and other life necessities. So it's homes and it's also rentals.
Yeah.
And, we don't know how millennials, Gen Zers, and those to follow are going to live. There are things like the tiny house movement, and they're much more transient than we've ever been before in history, aside from, hunter-gatherer times, certainly in this century. However, there are some things to look at as we chessboard this out down the road, like if we ever do double-track the South Shore, which I think we will.
On the way to
housing
doing it,
stock, and that could really, truly revitalize that area of the state. There could be other transformative projects that sometimes, when we decide to get a little bit more ambitious, maybe we build high-speed rail between Chicago and Indianapolis, dream bigger. That could have a positive impact.
A lot of effort being made to help diversify the economy, not just in terms of the sectors of the economy, but globally. In not one, but two international trade missions taking place in the week ahead. Governor Holcomb, Lieutenant Governor Crouch as well. One to Canada, the other to Italy. Thank you, Tracy. What do you think of that?
Well, I guess, if you're governor, you get to go to Italy, and if you're lieutenant governor, you get to go to Canada. Say no more. But seeing our partnerships expand, and actually speaking of Canada, for so many years, it's been our primary trade partner, for at least 30 years, Mike, I think, something like that. So deepening, strengthening those relationships and allowing business to grow, develop that way is strategic and important.
Christina talked about transformative projects, and I think you could look at Electric Works in Fort Wayne as being a transformative project for that city. $400+ million project, got a boost this week with some public funding. Mike, you're a native of Fort Wayne. Right. How big is that, or important is that?
Fort Wayne's a buzz about this development project, and this is just another step in this progress. I think a lot of people have been taking a wait-and-see approach, and now I think it's ready to light this up. It's exciting, I think, for the region because it's very much a talent attraction hub play. Most of the development looks at education and research space. About a third of it looks at innovation space. It'll certainly have retail, restaurants, apartments up there as well, and recreational space, but it's very much about driving that talent pipeline up there that's so important for the region.
Why are these projects, you see communities, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Evansville, undertaking these kinds of projects?
Well, part of it's a regional cities initiative. It's just really move things along in those places. But, I think we've, maybe not done as much investment in the sort of capital projects, both private and public sector, in our major older industrial cities, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, that would be on the national scene that way. This really, I think, marks a turnaround, and it's going to bring people, it's going to bring jobs, it's going to do the type of things that those policy initiatives were designed to do.
I want to get your take also, Mike. The report came out this week from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that Indiana among the top 10 in wage growth, which is something that's been a real challenge for Indiana for a long time.
Right. If you look at us, we should probably be in the middle of the pack in wage growth. To be in the top 10 means that not only people are moving here, but the composition of the labor force is shifting in important ways. We're seeing here in central Indiana growth in the high-tech jobs are taking advantage of a much better human capital that the city has been able to attract over the past generation or two. We've also seen a lot of manufacturing jobs, and these are mostly going to be the really advanced manufacturing jobs that pay better. So good news for Indiana, not unexpected, but certainly good news.
Changing face of healthcare. We saw another major announcement this week. Franciscan Health eyeing a $130 million investment in an orthopedic hospital in Hamilton County. The investment in Hamilton County in particular, in a number of areas, but in healthcare is substantial.
Boom, boom, boom. I guess my only regret is that healthcare is such big business in Indiana because we do tend to be one of the unhealthier states. But it certainly is interesting to see the intersection of technology, healthcare, infrastructure, and how we're going to support the good health of Hoosiers over time, particularly because access to healthcare and hospitals is not as widespread or dispersed as we'd like, county to county, statewide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that access point is a good one, and you see different trends happening in this market. The community hospitals, smaller, more accessible hospitals like St. Vincent's Dunn and Castleton that you covered earlier. Those are important things. And with Franciscan, I mean, it's the aging population that we have, the need for hip replacements and these things, and they're responding to that.
Always like to end on sports. Certainly it was a tough week for the Brickyard this year because of the weather. The dirt track attracted big crowds, but the weather really washed a lot of the events out there. It was also a big week in college football. In fact, Ball State and Notre Dame played at Notre Dame. It was a big game. And I remember 3 years ago, I think it was 2016, right after the announcement was made of this game, there was a prediction made right on this set. Mike, Ball State, maybe close to getting a new coach, a former player. Will that make the prospects for Ball State football go north?
Yeah, we're looking forward to that Notre Dame game in 3 years, and I think it's
he
important
predicted
for
a Ball
us.
State victory.
I'm telling you right now, we've got the quarterback to do it. Yeah, absolutely. It's college football breaks your heart, but I think we're looking at a good season in the fall.
Okay, you predicted a win, and I will tell you, you came pretty close because Ball State, you clearly beat the line. So it was a good game.
For an economist, that was as close as we'll ever get.
That was very good. Mike Hicks, Christina Hale, Mike Marker, thanks one and all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.